Hello and a pleasant good morning to everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Morning Quest. This Friday morning, we have so much to discuss. I want to get into some Dragon Ball. I love that this show has become a good excuse for me to talk anime. We got a new Zelda trailer that I wanted to go through, but primarily to lead us off, we're actually going to talk about Black Myth Wukong and Concord, because I believe those are actually the two biggest stories in gaming for two very opposite reasons. And I see we got some early birds in the chat, as always. George Truxell, Hyrule Falcone, and of course, Mrs. Lodge, Star Latte Studios. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining me this morning. Anyway, like I said, we have so much to discuss. Treehouse is here too. Oh boy. Now Treehouse is here. Anyway, look, again, I definitely want to get into some of the stuff we normally cover, being the Dragon Ball stuff. We have a lot of Dragon Ball stuff to talk about. We have a new Zelda trailer, like I mentioned. A couple other stories, maybe a little something from Star Fox that we could talk about. But through and through, the biggest stories in gaming right now are, without a doubt, Black Myth Wukong and Concord. And again, for two very opposite reasons. Let's start with the good news. Let's start with the positive note. And that's that in an industry that is struggling, in an industry that is headed for a crash, in an industry that, needs to reconfigure itself for the future, Black Myth Wukong is standing as a shining pillar of success, selling 18 million copies in 2 weeks. By the way, shout out to Sammy Barker over at Push Square for this article where they announced that expansion is in development, which, after the 10 million sales, expansion was going to be in development. But let's talk about that just a little bit more, okay? 18 million copies. That doesn't tell the full story. The first week, 10 million copies were sold. Now, again, it's a very rare exception where you peak after your first week. Most games and their sales peak within the first weekend. And the fall off wasn't crazy, right? The first week they sold 10 million copies. The second week they sold 8 million. That is not a big fall off at all. Now, I don't think they'll sell 6 on the third week. Maybe it'll be closer to 4 or 5, maybe even 3. But the fact of the matter is, 18 million copies for Black Myth Wukong, a brand new IP that nobody knows about, right? This is not an IP standing on the shoulders of giants, right? This is not a Zelda game selling like this. This is not a Mario game selling like this. Not a Final Fantasy, not a Kingdom Hearts, not a, pick your favorite, man. Pick your favorite. This is a brand new IP selling 18 million copies within its first 2 weeks, and it only begs the question why. And I definitely want to get into that today. What I can offer you is I can offer what this team did right marketing this game and putting this game out there. However, I myself have not played Black Myth Wukong yet. However, we have a special guest appearance by Andy Brew where he's going to break down the gameplay and why he believes the game has been so successful from a gameplay perspective. Now, for me, I can tell you from what has interested me, even though I'm somebody who it takes a lot for me to get into a new IP, right? I have my IPs that I love. I have my franchises I love. Stellar Blade got me to take the plunge, and I believe Black Myth Wukong will do the same. And I think a big part of it, and I think those two games do have a lot in common in how they were presented to the audience, is that, keep it simple, stupid, as they say. Black Myth Wukong is, in the way Stellar Blade was a callback to the PS2 era, Black Myth Wukong doesn't seem to quite be doing that or quite be using that as its edge, but it is saying like, hey, this is a game for gamers. This is a game that's primarily going to challenge you. It's going to be very combat focused, and it's going to have a story that you can get invested in. Now, that story happens to be Journey to the West. Now, again, here's something I we'll bring Concord in this for a second before we move back to Black Myth Wukong, because Concord didn't do well. I think Concord is an example of a game that was made and the marketing budget was used to convince the audience they wanted it, as opposed to Black Myth Wukong, which is a game that was created and the marketing was there to convince you that this, not convince you, but prove that this is what you've been asking for. Black Myth Wukong is the game people have been asking for. Cool character designs, challenging battles, cool combat, good story, and again, Journey to the West is a story that will sell over and over and over. We talk about Dragon Ball coming up on today's episode. That's another series inspired by Journey to the West. So you have a story in Journey to the West that people are willing to experience over and over. Cool character designs, cool combat, keeping it simple. It's just a game, man. It's just a game. And when they marketed it to you, they marketed it to you like it was just a game. Not like the game was gonna change anything or save anyone or they didn't even market it like it was gonna be this beacon for modern gaming. And it happened to turn out that way. Now, I want to get more into that, but to talk about Black Myth Wukong's success a little bit more, I'm going to bring in Andy Brew, who's going to explain why this game has succeeded from a gameplay perspective. Because again, guys, in a year, the last few years, where layoffs are crazy, sales are down, profits are down, general audience interest is down, Black Myth Wukong is out here selling 18 million copies in 2 weeks. Something is going on. Now let's bring in Andy Brew to lay out why that's happening from a gameplay perspective.
What's up, sickos and normies? It's Andy Brew coming at you, and I'm actually fresh off of finishing Black Myth Wukong as of a couple hours ago. I just finished a game, and let me tell you something. This game is truly something spectacular, and the game sold 10 million copies in 3 days, and now, as of literally yesterday, it sold 18 million copies worldwide. It's getting up to that Elden Ring level of sales. Even might even surpass it. Why is that? I can't tell you why it was so successful, other than, well, the game's just good. It's just good. And it's fun. And what you see in these trailers is the game that you're going to get. Whenever the first trailer dropped 4 years ago, it was one of those games where I watched the trailer and I thought, you know what, this game looks too good to be real. This is not a real game. This game is never coming out. It's just not going to happen. It just looks too good, too fun, too awesome. And then we kept getting updates, and then the game became more of a reality. And obviously the game has changed over time, but the game is fun. It's addicting, and it's simple. The combat is actually simple. It's not a Souls-like. I don't care what anybody else tells you. As somebody who enjoys Souls games and other action games, this game is not a Souls-like. It's more of a character action RPG. The three games that I would compare it to the most are God of War, Bayonetta, and most recently Stellar Blade. I would say it plays more like those three games than any other game out there. It's very simple. Your square button attacks and your triangle button does heavy attacks, and you have varied combos with your triangle button. You have like some other special moves. You have a bunch of transformations that you can use, a bunch of things you can transform into. Some you just have one move with your spirit transformation that you use, and others, you actually have a whole move set, and you actually retain the transformation for a long time and can do some damage. But it's fun and many different ways to play. Progression feels good in terms of upgrading armor, in terms of getting stronger weapons and the skill trees. It all feels good, and I feel like this is a game that we desperately needed in 2024, now in an era that is dominated by open world games, by Souls-likes, by your Zeldas and your Elden Rings, and I feel like we needed a game like this where the game is very fun to play, it's very satisfying to play, and it is linear. And although going through, maybe the first chapter of the game, it might feel like just like a boss rush, which is what a lot of gaming journalists and reviewers have said. I promise you, when you get later into the game, this game opens up so much. It opens up so much. It's not open world. It is very linear, but there are routes to explore. There are secrets to be found. There are completely optional boss fights that feel like they should be a part of the main story because you get cutscenes out of them. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the game is awesome. And especially after finishing it, my goodness, I'm definitely going to play it again. It does have New Game Plus. I know this seems like a marketing ad for Black Myth Wukong. I'm not sponsored by Game Science or anything. I'm just saying I really like this game, and Landy asked me to do this for his morning quest. The game is very good. It's very fun. It's simple, and I think simple is what we need in 2024. And it feels like its own unique, original product. I hope it continues to sell well, and it's definitely Game of the Year material.
So there you have it, Andy Brew coming at you with the truth. I mean, look, there's a lot of truth to what he said, is that at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons gaming is in the situation it's in right now, where games are struggling to sell, people are getting laid off in droves, is because I think in a lot of ways these studios are trying to do too much. Whereas Andy just said in that clip, and I said in the pre-roll there, is that this game really does keep it simple. Again, in a world where everything is open world and overly cinematic, and half these games just feel like interactive movies, Black Myth Wukong brings gaming right back to its roots. Like, hey, this is simple. Like Andy was saying, box is your standard attack, triangle your heavy attack, things along those lines. And that the game is linear. There's nothing wrong with linear. I feel like maps and games that have linear progression have got a bad rap for some reason. I'm happy to see that that's not the case so much anymore, and people are starting to maybe embrace that kind of experience more. But look, sometimes gamers love a linear experience. Again, we have a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans here. This is why Kingdom Hearts 2 is so beloved. It's hallway fight cutscene, hallway fight cutscene, hallway fight cutscene. I'm not trying to be reductive. That's actually something gamers do appreciate and enjoy. Is if the combat is strong, like it is in Black Myth Wukong, you can insist upon your combat to carry the player experience. But now let's move on to, and we're going to keep talking Black Myth a little bit, but I feel like if we're talking Black Myth Wukong, the other thing I wanted to discuss, actually, before I knock this one out, is actually, we'll talk about the aftermath when we get to the end of this next story. Let's talk about this next story, because I do got to keep this moving. Did have a few things I wanted to discuss today. Let's talk about perhaps the biggest failure in video game history. I am not being hyperbolic. Concord will be shutting down today. Happy Concord gets shut down day, everybody. This is probably the biggest flop in video game history. This is a game that was 8 years in development, and they spent, and I'm going to give you a conservative estimate, over $100 million in development. We're not even talking about the marketing budget. Over $100 million. The game sold around 30,000 copies, and now they're shutting down service September 6th and offering full refunds. So what does that tell you? Me talking about Concord on this episode of Morning Quest made more money on Concord than Concord did on Concord. Where Black Myth Wukong is an example of where the gaming industry may be headed, Concord is a prime example of what the gaming industry is and should leave behind. Now, I am not dismissing the hard work of the developers. There was a lot in that game that was appealing. I mean, I remember during the State of Play when it first got revealed, I wasn't repulsed by it. There was nothing about Concord that repulsed me, but I said over and over, this should just be a movie. This should just be a movie. If this was a movie that wanted 2 hours of my time and $15 for a ticket, I could be sold. But when you're a game, essentially, a carbon copy of Overwatch and you want $40 for me to get into the door and there's going to be tons of things and microtransactions you're going to hit me with along the way, I'm going, you want 50 plus hours, 50 plus bucks for this? Tough sell. If you wanted me for 2 hours in the movie theater, $15, I'm in. E.T. for Atari made more money than Concord. That's what I'm saying. For the longest time, right, Chud? Chud Sneed, I love it. New Sage of the Lodge, shout out to you. But E.T. for the longest time was like held as like the biggest video game failure ever. Not anymore. Concord, 8 years, over $100 million, not a penny to show for it. Not a penny to show for it, just a few weeks of being on the market. So what happened? What happened? Like I said, the trailer looked more like a movie than a game. That was their first mistake. Was the trailer, the chance they had at the beginning of the state of play, they opened a state of play, they had a chance to introduce themselves to the customer, and what they showed you was, it essentially was a Marvel movie put into an Overwatch style play. Now here's the thing, guys, and this is where I'm saying Black Myth Wukong understood what gamers wanted. Concord did not. If I wanted to play Overwatch, I would just go play Overwatch. I'm not going to play your carbon copy of it. It's not how things work. But let's discuss something else that I think is also important. You know, for a lot of people, character designs are a big deal. For a lot of people like myself, character designs, character arcs, getting invested in characters are a big deal. For instance, I love plot in video games, but I think I enjoy individual character arcs more than overarching plots. So characters are a big deal for someone like me. Now, when I look at Black Myth Wukong, I see badass Monkey Man, and I see a dangerous looking, a beautiful, dangerous woman. So that's what you're showing me right there. You got badass Monkey Man and beautiful, dangerous woman. Now, both of these designs, if you look at them, they have a unique aesthetic to them. It's not something we've ever really seen before. It's not really like an art style we've seen before. Everything about those two designs is fresh. Let me even bring in another spread of Black Myth Wukong character designs. Again, all look very different, all have their own unique aesthetic, and these designs in and of themselves can tell you a lot about the characters. So again, if you're just going to tell me which character showcase I prefer, it's an easy one. Again, Black Myth Wukong has a more unique aesthetic, right? The main character looks badass, looks like a hero, looks strong, looks competent, right? Meanwhile, in Concord, the main character looked like me. He was an alien, but he looked like a combination of me, Shaggy, and an alien from Mars. Now, when I boot up my PlayStation, I don't want to play as me, right? I want to play as badass Monkey Man. So, personally, I thought Concord's character designs were shit. Absolute shit. And I think that's one of the problems that they had. Let's blow this up, actually. Let's blow this up a little bit. I might be off camera for a bit, but just bear with me. We'll even, like, who asked for any of this, guys? Look at that character spread. If this was, we have a lot of Kingdom Hearts Final Fantasy fans here. If this was the party for a Final Fantasy game, you wouldn't buy it in a million years. You wouldn't buy it in a million years. Now, again, let's be generous. The main two characters are over on the left. And like I said, that alien-looking dude, he looks like he's me. I don't want to play as me. Now, the girl on the left, she's pretty, but she looks like a woman that works in HR. Nothing wrong with a woman who works in HR, but when gamers come home from work, they don't want to turn on their PlayStation and see the woman from HR. Right? And they don't want to play as the goofy, skinny dude that they are in their day-to-day. That's not what gamers want. That's what they want. That's what they want. What you're seeing here. So if you're going to ask what's more appealing to gamers, designs like this or designs like this, that's an easy one. Again, this just looked like I wish I could say it was an Overwatch carbon copy, but Overwatch's character designs are good. Those designs are good. These designs are all blocky, unappealing, there's not a whole lot to write home about. So Concord failed in the sense that when it introduced itself to gamers, it appeared to be more of a cinematic than an actual game. And then when it showed off its character designs, they were bland. They were boring. They were lacking in aesthetic. Again, everything on your screen right now could have been AI generated. In fact, I have seen better designs generated by AI than what we're looking at here. And you know what? I don't think that's going to be a reflection of who the designer is. I'm not attacking them directly because I'm willing to bet they had to design these in a way that the studio wanted. Now, again, when you talk about marketing and how things were coming out over the coming weeks, you had the Concord devs and people who were working on Concord who said some very out-of-pocket things about gamers, or about the games industry, might be a better way to put it. Meanwhile, Black Myth Wukong, and it's interesting too, you had IGN doing hit pieces about it, right? Where gaming media was trying to, push the signal of Concord and suppress the signal of Black Myth Wukong. You watched an opposite reaction happen. Because again, I think a lot of people who worked on Concord are resentful that customers didn't buy the product. And I think a lot of the people who worked on Black Myth Wukong have a love and appreciation for the industry they're a part of. And I think all the different shows and how those games were rolled out, you have to know your customer and appreciate your customer. I don't think Concord knew who the customers were. And I think they were trying to, like I said in the beginning, you know what? I'll even pull it up. 1 second. Because sometimes when I quote myself, I tend to butcher my own takes. But here, let me pull this up. Soon this industry is going to learn. A marketing budget isn't so you can convince customers to want what you made. It's for proving to customers that you made what they want. And that's what Concord was. They were trying to convince customers to want what they made. But we don't want this. Overwatch is done. If people want to play Overwatch, they'll go play Overwatch. Black Myth Wukong understood the assignment. Black Myth Wukong understood who their customers were. They love and appreciate their customers, and they targeted them. Concord, on the other hand, I don't think had that same appreciation and knowledge of their customer base. And that's putting it lightly. Okay, let's move on to our next story. Again, that'll be all for Concord. That'll be all for Black Myth Wukong. Shout out to Andy Brew. Make sure you're following him. Thanks for giving us that take, Andy. All right. Let's talk about a story that I'm personally very excited about. Actually, what am I doing? Let's do it like that. Star Fox artist says Miyamoto has strong feelings for the IP, believes it will return at some point. That is what I like to hear. Look, I absolutely love Star Fox. I cannot tell you how much I love Star Fox. Trey Hill is here, says Baldur's Gate 3 is another example from a different genre. Exactly. Baldur's Gate 3, right? Knew who their customer base was, knew what their customers wanted, right? They knew they had a customer base that wants to LARP, live action roleplay, right? They want to LARP inside the game. So they created a sandbox, an atmosphere where you could pretty much do what you wanted, right? You could have the interactions with the characters that you wanted. It gave you a lot of player freedom. Where Baldur's Gate excelled in that, Black Myth Wukong excelled in keeping you on a linear track. Again, it goes both ways here. But let's talk about this. It looks like Star Fox isn't dead. Now, we could throw Star Fox on the list of IPs that I absolutely love and adore that are sitting in limbo. Throw it right up there with Soul Calibur. But this makes me very happy because I think Nintendo has seen a lot of success with their new IPs, right? The Nintendo of today is a lot different than the Nintendo of yesterday, right? You look at the Nintendo of the 90s, right? You have your Mario and your Zelda, but running as backup, you have Star Fox, you have Metroid, right? You have, well, F-Zero. There's a lot more of that. Give me a second. Let me get some water. Boston Bob says, could never have a Modern Warfare 2 lobby in 2024. Hey, if you keep it on your own private Discord or your own private chat, you can. But I see what you mean. And it is a crying shame. I came up in the Gears of War and the Halo days, and man, let me tell you, people who I never met screaming heinous things at me because I chainsawed them never got old. And I was never bothered by it. They can call me whatever they want, right? Dude, the things I used to get called, because my family is half Spanish and I love penguins. So my gamer tag on Xbox was Hispanic Penguin. And man, when I tell you the things that I used to get called, man, and you know what? To be fair, I would just curse back at them in Spanish, but it never bothered me. It was funny. It was fun. Anyway, getting way off topic here. I'm happy to see that Star Fox is still, at the very least, on life support over at Nintendo. I think it's a series that deserves more love. I think it's a series that opens up a lot of possibilities for Nintendo. So I'm very pleased to see that the IP is still alive and well. Zebulon says it builds character for real. Absolutely. Like, let me tell you something. Growing up as a teenager in those COD lobbies, those Gears lobbies, those Halo lobbies, there's nothing any human being can say to me that will ever hurt me. You have no power here. YouTube comment section, you have no power here. Right? Those lobbies, they hardened me. They hardened me. Anyway, let's move on. So, I'm not a fan. I don't want to say I'm not a fan, because I haven't given the series a real fair shot yet. I watched season 1 when it came out and loved it, but then the series kind of just disappeared and I fell off. But Attack on Titan will announce a new project on September 9th to celebrate the manga's 15th anniversary. Shout out to Lunar Lux. I definitely want to give this anime a shot one day. It's just a shame that I fell off, because when that first season came out, man, I was all in. I must have watched season 1 twice, maybe even a third time. But then the rest of the series, the rollout was so long, I just kind of fell off. But we got some exciting news there. And then here's some exciting news for me. Both Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and the first episode of Dragon Ball Daima release on October 11th. Rejoice, Dragon Ball fans. You have a new holiday. And personally, I couldn't be more excited for both. You know what? I think I lost the post I was going to pull up. But, so it looks like Dragon Ball Daima is going to take place after the Buu Saga, before Super, which will effectively erase GT, which is something Toriyama wanted to do. But this will be fun. Now, we have a Dragon Ball Daima trailer to watch, so let's actually move into that. We've reached the part of the show where we watch trailers, which, it's always my favorite part. I like talking about the games, news, and stuff. But man, the trailers are the most exciting. All right, let's get this pulled up. Okay, knock this out. Let's watch the trailer for Dragon Ball Daima. And we have an Echoes of Wisdom trailer and a couple other trailers after this too. So let's check this out. Chat, I'm going to bonk you out just for a sec. Ooh, I got to fix that. The keyboard's all the way over there. All right, bear with me, guys. 1 second. Let's fix this. Live production, folks. Get the whole package here. All right, there we go. That's what we wanted. Okay. Let's get this set. All right. Let me know how the volumes are. If you guys need me to turn it up, turn it down, you let me know. I'm going to put it up pretty high. And man, 40 years of Dragon Ball. How insane. That makes me feel old. Dragon Ball's older than I am. Amazing. All right, let it roll. I just want to say, now, look, I'm a big fan of Super. I really enjoyed it. I think the Tournament of Power arc is one of the greatest sagas in Dragon Ball history. Even though I think Super had a bit of a wonky start, it took a while to get its footing. The Tournament of Power was incredible. However, my biggest complaint about Super is the animation. I think the animation in Super is pretty weak. I think the Dragon Ball Z animation blows it out of the water. But the Dragon Ball Daima animation looks impeccable, dude. Impeccable. Look at this. Like, do you guys see how crisp this looks? Volume is good. Could maybe go up just a little if you feel the need to adjust, but it's fine for now. I'll boot it up a little bit. We'll raise it a little bit. But, like, the animation is so crisp. So crisp. And that's my thing, man. Again, as much as I love Super, the thing about Dragon Ball Z is that the animation was so far ahead of its time. Like, go watch Dragon Ball Z and remind yourself that was 30 years ago. And it looks better than pretty much everything that comes out today. But this, Daima, might eclipse it animation-wise. Let me tell you what I love about this trailer so much too, and the way they're rolling out Daima, and this goes into what we were talking about earlier with, again, Black Myth and Concord, knowing what your audience wants, right? I've been a fan of Dragon Ball my whole life, my entire life, like as far back as I can remember, honestly. And I can't tell you how much joy seeing this fills me with. I can't explain why. I can't explain why. I don't know. People have been saying there's a reason they haven't shown Gohan as a kid here. Cell Saga Gohan might be back. What do you think? Maybe. But that is peculiar. I'm almost going to wonder, Zeb, if Gohan's role, if maybe he's one of the ones who didn't get shrunk or reduced, and maybe he's kind of the guy, the brains, who has to figure out how to turn everyone back. I don't know. Makes me wish for a remake of sorts for the Dragon Ball original anime. I think they should leave that alone. I see what you mean, because the original Dragon Ball looking like this would be nuts, but it's so perfect the way it is. It's such a relic of old school animation. I'm going to let this continue. So there you have it. I mean, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. You know, it's funny. You don't have to know somebody to miss them, right? And I didn't know Toriyama, but I miss him. And the fact that Daima is going to be like the last of his legacy, maybe that's what's hitting me. I don't know. Like Will says, it does have a charm and merit in its own right. There's something about this that's very charming. You know, when you first see all your favorite characters are turned into kids, you're just kind of like, what is this? Right? That's like your first knee-jerk reaction. But then you watch it play out, and it just looks so genuine, right? There's a genuine energy to Daima that is missing in Super, right? Because I think, unfortunately, now I'm someone who loved the Cell Saga, but I think, unfortunately, after the Cell Saga, a lot of the fan base wanted Dragon Ball to keep getting more and more and more serious, you know, and taking itself more seriously. I never agreed with that approach. I think the Buu Saga got too silly for all the wrong reasons. But between Super and Daima, it seems to be capturing that sort of wholesome energy again, right? Dragon Ball's good at raising the stakes, having crazy fights, crazy battles, all of that. But in a world where the Dragon Balls exist and anyone can be wished back, you're going to have a hard time really getting me invested in some high stakes. But that's okay. That's okay when your approach is what Daima is doing, is what Tournament of Power did. It's a great thing. All right, let's move on to our next trailer. Let me pull this up over here. Next, we have some Sparking Zero. So again, a little bit of Dragon Ball today, all day Dragon Ball. Let's pull this up. This is the tournament mode gameplay trailer. So let's check this out. Let me turn the volume up and let her off. Question, I am not seeing DEI crammed into it. That seems like more of an observation than a question, but I do agree with your observation. Let's keep it rolling.
In battle mode, you can fight online in ranked or custom matches, or play offline against a CPU or your friends in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber stage. With ranked matches, you can set your matchmaking conditions to find your ideal opponents with balanced character cost restrictions and check the leaderboard rankings. In World Tournament mode, you can create or join a tournament online with rivals around the world, or play offline in a tournament created for you. In this mode, you can create your own tournament rules, or play in iconic tournaments from the animation. Each tournament comes with its own rule set that may adjust stages.
Wait. I want to hear that back. Did he say you can... Oh, wow! You can go through all the tournament arcs? And pick which... That's so cool, dude. Tournament of Powers here. The Yamcha games. The Cell game. Oh, that... Okay. That's cool.
Iconic tournaments from the animation. Each tournament comes with its own rule set that may adjust stages, victory conditions, and more. Today, we'll follow Great Saiyaman in his quest for victory at the World Tournament. Victory conditions include defeating your opponents the traditional way, or by sending your opponents out of bounds. Persevere, and you can rise up the ladder to achieve victory.
Yo! I'm sorry. Let me tell you again, I can't help but just observe. Like, I love the way Sparking Zero's presenting itself. I think it's the high energy, right? Oh, man. Again, I've said it for the longest time. This has the potential. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has the potential to be the biggest fighting game in the world, and I want it to. I'm rooting for it. I feel like because Dragon Ball comes up a lot on Morning Quest, again, I'll repeat myself briefly. I loved Street Fighter, and I loved Tekken, but they didn't keep me around. They didn't keep, which lets me down, man. Which lets me down. I'm hoping Sparking Zero can really break the mold. All right, I got some more trailers before we wrap up today. Oh, that was something else I wanted to bring up. Let's pull this up. There will be, in 2 hours, a new character trailer premiere for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So the news just keeps coming. Wanted to bring that up to you guys. In fact, in case you wanted to watch it, let me throw that in the chat. Let me throw that in the chat for you guys. If that's something you want to watch, here you go. I love a good fighting game. Me too, dude. I'm a bit, Boston Bob, I feel like you're relatively new here. I'm a huge Soul Calibur guy. I live, die, and breathe for Soul Calibur. And even though I still go back to Soul Calibur 6 and play it to this day, if anybody wants to throw hands in Soul Calibur 6, if anybody wants to get embarrassed, if anybody wants to get destroyed and dominated in Soul Calibur 6, hit my line. We'll do it. But yeah, I need something to fill that void. Okay, the game's going to be 6 years old in October. I need something to fill that void. And I know we're in an era where everyone's playing older games, myself included. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy X and X-2, as well as jumping back into Soul Calibur 6 here and there. But let's move on to our final trailer, a new game coming out, one that I am definitely very excited for. We've got some Echoes of Wisdom. Let's check it out. Official Save Hyrule Your Way trailer. Let's check this out.
You might think there's a right or wrong way to do things.
Whoa, I just learned to fish. Get him, buddy.
But in Hyrule, there's only your way.
I didn't know Zelda could do that.
You can take the same thing
I'm floating.
and make it your thing. You can overcome the same obstacle
Oh.
in more ways than one.
Yes. What'd you do? Whoa.
Because in The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, the best way to play is your way. Only on Nintendo Switch.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize it was so soon. Now, look, this is a game I can't wait for. This is a game I can't wait for. But I have to be honest about one thing. There is something I miss about the old Zelda that I'm not sure is going to be in Echoes of Wisdom. You know, I've seen a lot of talk that, like, Echoes of Wisdom might revitalize... Like, again, let's get into the full topic, I guess, of Legend of Zelda and where it is right now. Like, for me, for instance, Tears of the Kingdom. I absolutely loved it. I thought Tears of the Kingdom was great. However, it's my least favorite 3D Zelda. I'll put it in a nutshell. I've thought about making a video describing this and talking about it in detail. Because, again, it's a game that I love. I love Tears of the Kingdom. I'll probably play it a second time. I've put like over 100 hours into it. It's a great game. But it's my least favorite 3D Zelda for two reasons. The one reason is part of what made Breath of the Wild such an amazing experience was the joy of exploration. Exploring this brand new Hyrule. Everything was new and novel. Tears of the Kingdom, they essentially made us explore the same Hyrule all over again. Now they added a couple outposts and a couple new towns, but it kind of felt the same. And look, there was an above ground, a sky world, and an underground world, but those worlds were pretty barren. There were puzzles and enemies and stuff, but there was no towns, there was no overworlds, there was no cultures in the sky or underground. So Tears of the Kingdom, which I felt this new era of Zelda, the best thing they have to offer is that exploration. I felt Tears of the Kingdom really lacked it. I do think Zelda's combat needs to modernize. Like the fact that Kingdom Hearts 2 has better combat than Tears of the Kingdom. They ought to take a look at themselves for that. And when I say Kingdom Hearts 2, I more mean like PS2 era action games have better combat than Tears of the Kingdom does. I love the shrines. I know that they have a mixed reception, but I absolutely love the shrines. But here's my thing about modern Zelda that doesn't gel with me that great is this idea that every problem has a million solutions, and it's up to your creativity to find the solution. I love that in the overworld they're showing here in Echoes of Wisdom. Like, if that's how exploring the overworld is, right? Exploring the overworld, there are a million ways to solve your problems and get to what you need to get to. But personally, I prefer when there's that one singular solution that I need to find out. There's one singular solution. I have all these tools, and I need to sort through all my tools and abilities to figure out what I need to do in this moment. Because in Tears of the Kingdom, I felt like so many puzzles were solved by me just like screwing around, which is fine. Again, I loved the game. But this idea that every problem has numerous solutions, it's like a multiple choice question where 3 out of 4 of the answers are correct. That doesn't gel with me as well as one singular solution. Now, again, if you have a mixed bag where some puzzles and obstacles have multiple solutions and other puzzles and obstacles have singular solutions, that to me can be great. But when every obstacle has multiple solutions, it curbs the difficulty. It's not so hard anymore. I don't need to critically think as much as I used to, and that's what I love about Zelda is it forces me to critically think. But when, again, half the tools in my repertoire can solve half the problems I'm presented with, I don't have to critically think as much. But again, I'm excited for Echoes of the Wisdom. I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it, and it's right around the corner. All right, but with that, we're going to wrap up today's episode. Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. Major shout out to Andy Brew for giving us that spiel on Black Myth Wukong, offering some gameplay takes that I can't offer you guys. So big thanks to him. Major shout out to Lands the Masters. Lands the Master. I'm still getting used to that. It's like Carly Stella. I keep calling her Faye. Anyway, Lands the Master for being the best mod in the game. Look out, Umbra. And yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for chilling. We'll see you all soon.